On the night of October 19, 2025, Ukraine's defense forces carried out strikes on strategic Russian facilities involved in supporting the needs of the aggressor state's armed forces, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to the General Staff, among the targeted sites was the Novokybyshevsk oil refinery in Russia's Samara region. Explosions and fires were recorded on the facility's premises. The refinery produces more than 20 types of products, with an annual crude oil processing capacity of about 4.9 million tons. Preliminary reports indicate that the primary oil processing units were hit. Last month, the Novokybyshevsk refinery temporarily suspended operations after damage to its infrastructure. In August, production was halted after drones damaged the atmospheric column of the primary oil processing unit. The Orenburg gas processing plant, one of Russia's largest gas complexes, was also struck. The facility is capable of processing up to 45 billion cubic meters of gas and more than 6 million tons of condensate per year. According to preliminary information, one of the gas processing and purification units was damaged, and explosions and large-scale fires were recorded at the site. According to the governor of the region, Yevgeny Solntsev, drones attacked a gas plant in Russia's Orenburg region, causing a fire in one of its workshops. UAF drones attempted an attack on another industrial facility in the region. The gas plant's infrastructure was partially affected, the Russian governor wrote. Local authorities reported infrastructure damage and a fire in one workshop, with no injuries. NASA firms monitoring recorded a fire near the fractionation unit and tank area. The plant is located approximately 1,500 kilometers from the front line. In addition, Ukraine's defense forces struck a fuel and lubricant storage base in the temporarily occupied city of Berdyansk, where explosions and fires were also reported. The General Staff emphasized that these strikes are aimed at undermining Russia's military-industrial base and limiting its ability to continue its aggression against Ukraine. The extent of the damage is being clarified. Ukraine's defense forces continue to systematically carry out operations targeting the enemy's critical infrastructure and ensuring the nation's security. The Unmanned Systems Forces reported that on the night of October 19, operators of the 14th Separate UAV Regiment, in coordination with other units of the Defense Forces, carried out a strike on the Novokybyshevsk oil refinery. The facility is of strategic importance for supplying Russia's army with fuel and lubricants. The Russian Defense Ministry reported intercepting 45 drones over 11 regions, including Crimea, claiming 12 were destroyed over Samara and 1 over Orenburg. Since August, Ukraine has intensified strikes on Russian oil and gas facilities and pipelines. Bloomberg reported that nearly one-third of Russian refineries have been affected.
The Ukrainian armed forces will decide for themselves whether to launch a new offensive without regard to US President Donald Trump's position on the matter. A Ukrainian military officer explained, "It's entirely possible that the resources are available for a 10 to 15 kilometer breakthrough, but for a greater one, other considerations will be needed." Trump has spoken about making some important decisions in the context of the Ukrainian Armed Forces' new offensive, but this couldn't be standard show-offs, said Ihor Lutsenko, a military officer and co-founder of the Aerial Reconnaissance Support Center, in an interview with Union. However, the US can help with tangible actions, not just words. In addition to Tomahawk missiles, the Ukrainian armed forces need air defense systems to counter aircraft carrying cabs on the front line and a large number of HIMARS missiles, which will break through Russian positions in a certain area. Lutsenko explained that at this stage of the war, both the Ukrainian and Russian armed forces could well have reserves that they could deploy if necessary. From this perspective, the Ukrainian army could stage something similar to the breakthrough in the Kursk region and advance 10 to 15 kilometers into Russian fortifications. He believes that Ukrainian Armed Forces commander Oleksandr Syrsky can be expected to devise an interesting operation. Could Ukraine have the potential to simulate some kind of unexpected Kursk 2, say at a range of 10 to 15 kilometers? I think so. Yes, that's possible, he said. At some time, to conduct a serious offensive, a significant amount of time must be spent on planning and the creation of a strong assault force. It's likely that such work has already been done, the military official said. At the same time, he noted that it would be a good idea to improve mobilization and recruit 1,000 to 150,000 soldiers. This would allow them to replace the frontline troops and create a strike force. Hypothetically, the Ukrainian state is currently capable, with the help of the General Staff or some other mechanisms, of accumulating the necessary resources for such an offensive because it has already succeeded once. Lutsenko concluded. It's worth noting that in October, US President Donald Trump stated the possibility of a new offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces. According to the head of the White House, for this to happen, Ukraine would like to receive more weapons, including Tomahawk missiles, which are abundant in the Pentagon's stockpiles. During the almost 4 years of war, there were approximately 3 offensives by the Ukrainian armed forces. The first offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces took place in the fall of 2022. The defense forces managed to liberate the right bank of the Kherson region and part of the Kharkiv region. The second offensive began in early summer 2023. In June, the Russians blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station, and Ukrainian units attempted to advance from Zaporizhia toward Tokmak, Melitopol, and Mariupol. The third offensive took place in the summer of 2024. Ukrainian armed forces brigades broke through the border in the Kursk region, took control of Sudza, and almost reached Kursk and the Kurchatov nuclear power plant.
Ukrainian fighters in eastern part of the front line have captured a Russian assault group composed of various ethnic groups. The video shared in social media shows interrogation of captured Russian soldiers. What is peculiar about the captured soldiers is that all of them are non-Slavic minorities. Among the captured soldiers are an Armenian, a Buryat from Russia's Far East Buryatia Republic, Nenets, from far north of Russia, Yakut, and Tajik. The Ukrainian soldier interrogating the captives expressed his indignation over the fact among the hostages there is not a single Russian. "I guess there are no Russians left," the Ukrainian fighter said sarcastically. Russia's ethnic minorities have been suffering large-scale fatalities in Moscow's war of invasion in Ukraine. Russia's minorities and indigenous peoples are largely overrepresented among the casualties in the nearly 4 years of war. Outsized losses among non-Slavic minorities have raised concerns that these groups of people are used as cannon fodder to capture Ukrainian lands.
Национальность?
Армянин.
Ты?
Бурят.
Ты?
Ненец.
Немец?
Ненец.
Понял. Ты?
Якут.
Голову подними. Ты?
Таджик.
Твоя национальность?
Якут.
Ну так вот. А русские, я так понял, закончились уже. Уже самое, уже россиян чистокровных, чистых россиян воюют, всех подряд загоняют на всю войну. Вот тупо на убой.